It's 7:02 p.m. and we are in session. So members of the council, there's an agenda that you have before you, and I have the usual two questions, which are, do you have any changes to the agenda, and do you have any conflicts of interest that you need to disclose about items that are on the agenda? So those are the two questions. Any changes? Any conflicts of interest? So I'll just remind everyone that this is a work session. It's a more informal session, and we are here to learn and discuss, and we'll go from that. I actually have one change, which is that I don't have a report of a closed meeting. I don't believe we had one during October. We had one in late September, which I reported in the October meeting. So except for that, I think we are all good. So why don't we go ahead and dive into the Capital Bike Share update. Mr. Beckert.
I'd be happy to introduce Mr. Irv Beckert. So as some background on the Capital Bike Share discussion. So the town staff has been speaking with the county's Department of Public Works and Transportation, specifically Mr. Irv Beckert, about potential new locations for a Capital Bike Share station in town. Currently, we have two Capital Bike Share locations. One's at Riverdale Park Station, right by the Great Bear, the entrance there on Route 1, and the other is in the town center, just south of Queensbury Road there. The suggested location is just east of the Anacostia River. It's the intersection of Tanglewood Drive and Riverdale Road. And this location is Maryland National Capital Park and Planning property. And with that said, we have Irv Beckert here. He's the Chief of Highway and Bridge Design Division with Prince George's County Department of Public Works and Transportation, and he'll be happy to answer any of your questions.
Well, good evening, folks. Once again, I hope you can hear me well. Ryan, can you hear me okay?
Sound good.
Very good. Do you mind if I share my screen? I can. I've got a number of different images that I can share, and I've got GIS up as well. So
sounds good.
All right, thank you. All right, so you should see my screen now, and what Ryan just mentioned is a site at Tanglewood and Riverdale Road that is it's currently under consideration, and the county had initially done design work for a location up here at Queensbury Road and Taylor Avenue. That was part of a Transportation Alternatives Program grant with M.SHA. We're currently moving forward with the grant for a number of other sites, but because of the extensive review time, the approval time, if we make a change in the sites that are selected, we have to redo NEPA certification, right-of-way certification. We have to go through the full round of reviews with State Highway again. And what we decided was this is for the town. So instead of trying to fit this round peg into a square hole, we decided, well, why not find a site that really and truly meets your needs. So Tanglewood Drive and Riverdale Road, that site was proposed. We're happy to re-engineer that. We'll pay for it out of the county's CIP program. That's the Capital Improvement Program as a CIP project. And we do have an engineer engaged to do the design work. we'll also need to utilize our right-of-way personnel to negotiate with park and planning. There's standard challenges there just because it's a small footprint impact, but it's still an impact. So we've got to satisfy their needs. But before we went too much further, I really just want to make sure this is really and truly the site that's wanted, desired by the town. It looks like a good one to me. Looks like there's good connectivity. It presents itself very well. From a gradient standpoint, it looks very, very good. From a connectivity standpoint with trails, it's excellent. And there's a few obstructions we'll have to work around, but I don't see anything of substance that would really impact the establishment of a bike share station in this vicinity. So Ryan, first of all, does this look like the site that we had last discussed? Does this does this agree with your understanding of where at least the first alternative site that we discussed was?
It does, yes. This is the site we talked about. Perfect.
Okay, so this again, not a very challenging site. We can certainly grade it out. We can. It is a parkland impact, so there's a potential. Capper Crompton, I think I always get the name wrong, but there's a federal act whereby land, if it was acquired for park purposes, we have to get not only MNCPC approval, we have to get the National Capital Park and Planning Commission approval. So we will go through that process if we have to. And again, we'll have to secure rights with park and planning. That takes time, but they've been very cooperative. It just is a fairly lengthy process to negotiate an agreement with them so that we can get the necessary perpetual rights for maintaining this. So are there any questions and are there any observations about this site? Does this seem like a desirable location? This is one view of it.
Mr. Mayor, if I may just add something for background.
Please do, Mr. Lustician.
So when Mr. Shelton and I worked with Mr. Beckert, we were looking to check a number of boxes to include the connectivity, the access to trails, but we were also looking for investment east of the river. From an equity standpoint, as well as from a commuting standpoint. Micro mobility is very important to the town, and to have a population center in our multifamily area that very well may be working in the area of Riverdale Park Station, the restaurants, the grocery store, things of that nature. To have a micro mobility option that would be available to go from there to Riverdale Park Station and back, as well as Prince George's County for years did not have a mechanism to assist low to moderate income folks in acquiring membership for Capital Bike Share. Montgomery County, Arlington, DC had been providing a service for probably more than a decade. But it's our understanding that that service now exists to assist low to moderate income folks in acquiring memberships for Capital Bike Share. And knowing the mayor and council's vision and commitments statements for neighborhoods and housing and transportation, Mr. Shelton and I, and working with Mr. Beckert, thought that this would be a site that would meet a lot of the goals of the mayor and council. And with that, Mr. Beckert, if you are now looking for input from the council or questions.
Sure. I do see a few hands are raised. So Councilmember
Yes.
City, and Councilmember Linwood.
So Councilmember, I'm not sure who raised their hand first. Looks like Councilmember Lingua. So go ahead, Councilmember.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Thank you very much, Mr. Beckert, for the presentation. I guess I have a couple questions, and if Mr. Cheltner and or Mr. Listician want to weigh in on this, that's fine as well. First off, I'm glad to see that there's a spot being put east of Anacostia. I hope it does well. I think my question is, besides location, based on metrics that you looked at as in determination of this space, are you seeing, from that standpoint, are you seeing a good fit? And the other question I had was, at that location, as you are just northeast, or just essentially due east of the Anacostia, you're also at a confluence of the Wells Run tributary, as well as I think that's the Briars Ditch Run tributary in that area. And I think my concern is in terms of what used to be called a once in 100-year storm event, which is coming more often these days, or other large types of downpours. Do you feel you'll be able to set up a station that will take into consideration the possibility of such an event happening, and thus, you're not losing inventory due to a storm?
Okay, I'll answer the first question first, and that is regarding metrics. We typically have cited these based upon a number of radii of influence, whereby we're situating them close to other bike share stations, other transit facilities, bus stops, high population areas, business district areas. We try to take into account as much of that as possible. And of course, we have a wonderful new transit facility in the Purple Line that's coming down the pike, so to speak. And that does provide at least a proximity of connection to the Purple Line. But most importantly, and I think you Ryan and John raised it very well, to serve the residents in an area that need it, that there's an economics there that needs to be considered. We always try to consider that in all of our projects, large and small. So I think this is a very good site from a lot of those metrics. The second part of it is more the sustainability, the infrastructure sustainability side of it. And we try to build a certain toughness, certain rigidity to our structures. This is, it is near the 100-year floodplain. There is no doubt. It is a concrete pad at its base. So that by itself, certainly not an issue. The facilities themselves really are very durable because they're built for some pretty tough circumstances. Primarily, the biggest concern that the operators of the bike share facilities have is criminal activity. People vandalizing them, people stealing components. So therefore, these stations are built tough.
Okay.
And they certainly are able to withstand a certain amount of flow running through them, a certain amount of debris. That's what you would typically expect in a 100-year floodplain.
Okay.
And I don't suspect that there would be major issues. And then another nice thing is, in the event, if there is a major storm and there's a station at risk, we always have the ability to contact the operators and have them simply pick up the bikes and move them to a safer location.
Okay.
So that there's always options. But once again, the facility itself, the bike share station, is pretty sound. Does that answer the question? Does that answer your two questions adequately?
Yeah, it just, it seems, seems my understanding is, in terms of, on the second question, you have staff and you have an ability to, approach, any such event, with confidence. And in terms of numbers, you're looking, pretty much, 12 months down the road, 24 months down the road, even farther, in terms of what demand is going to be and how it's going to grow and develop. Question after that then is, with this station going here, is it safe to assume that you're looking at other locations east of the Anacostia for stations as well?
We are right now, and I did share our basic plan, which is of stations that are currently under development and stations that are really further in the future, in the form of a web map that we've developed, and we're happy to share whatever we have with you. Just please, I just asked the city clerk perhaps send me a quick email at the as a follow-up to this meeting, and we're happy to provide whatever's necessary. It is always a big question, though. What the sites that I like speaking to are the ones that I know we've got funding in place for. That is for design, right-of-way procurement, if that's necessary, all the ancillary logistics that go around those, because I must say the challenging thing about these sites is getting the agreements. That's far and away the most time-consuming element. And then that we incorporate the capital acquisition in our CIP. And finally, that we have a commitment by my county government to maintain these, to pay the bills month after month. Because right now they don't pay for themselves. It's an expense on our operating budget, and it is an operating budget expenditure once these sites are initialized, and once they start getting use. So, and those are the sites that we can always speak to very clearly. All the others that you'll see on the web map that are planned, ask us about. Tell us if there's an interest, because it always helps to get that feedback. It really does. We like to hear from the municipalities, citizen organizations, other elected officials, business groups. If there's just an area that looks like it hasn't really received the attention it should, and that helps us.
Okay. Well, thank you for that.
Sure.
Councilmember Siddiq.
Yeah, two questions. It looks like the intent would be to hit the densely populated area over to the east, but what about moving it down one major road to 54th Avenue? And secondly, is there discussion to make Riverdale Road more bike friendly?
Okay. I'll answer the first question. As far as location, folks, I really, we're very open to suggestions. We would like to hear from the city, and please be as definitive as you can, that you tell us this is the site that we want. And then I can talk to you about it, pick it apart, because I'm the civil engineer. I can at least look at it from the standpoint of constructability, if there's any kind of public safety or long-term maintenance issues, speak to utility clearance issues, and those kind of things, just to make sure that the site will work. Certainly, if you'd like to look further down the road on 54th Avenue, please suggest location and we can discuss it. I like these kind of meetings because it really is very helpful, because then it becomes like a working discussion. We can look at it together. I can point out the positive attributes and the challenging attributes of a specific site. Happy to do that, but please be specific and tell us where you think you'd like it, and then we can speak, intelligently to it and give you some feedback. Does that help?
It just seems like 54th Avenue and Riverdale Road would be much closer to the center of density in that area.
Okay.
If I could add something, one of the things that Mr. Beckert and Mr. Shelton and I discussed was that it's easier to install these on public land. And that's one reason why we ended up at the intersection that we ended up at. There is a future plan for a pocket park on 54th Place, which is further east than 54th Avenue. But there's going to be some hurdles there, so we're not sure the exact timing of that pocket park. It's further east than the 54th Avenue that you're seeing on the screen now. It's up behind that undeveloped land. So like just south of where it says Riverdale Road in red, and you see that vacant plot. That's the area that's 50, well, a little bit to your left, left of the screen, to the west, a little bit further. And so like right before that building, the town does own a small parcel, a narrow parcel. It's 30 feet wide in that area. And if the council wants us to consider that, we certainly can.
And those are really ideal if it's a town-owned parcel, because we often like working ourselves on county-owned parcels because we control them much easier from a construction standpoint, because we can really modify the landform if need be.
Are there additional council questions or comments? Are there public questions or comments? Mr. Barron? Dan, if you're speaking, you're muted. Your microphone looks like it is not muted, but I can't hear you.
Oh, there was one final question. I'm sorry, I didn't answer Council Member Sadiq's question completely. You asked if there were plans for bike facilities on Riverdale Road. Now, that roadway, that specific roadway is, this is, were you referring to this segment, Council Member Sadiq?
Yes, I bike that way frequently, and it's not very bikeable.
Okay, that's not a county maintained road. My team would. Right. Yeah, so we do not build bike facilities on city non-county maintained roadways. This is a bike share station, which we're again happy to do in a municipality, but we rarely actually touch municipality roadways.
And so a couple of things, like I typically end up on the sidewalk because it can get a little bit too exciting on the road there. There's not a lot of shoulder, and crossing Kenilworth is pretty exciting too.
Oh yeah, I'm an avid biker, and I feel your pain. our agency is really moving much more towards off-road. That is, if you're looking at Riverdale Road, and it's exceedingly difficult on a roadway like this to do anything within this very limited footprint that you have. But where I find if you can get it, build a multi-use path, build something that gets people off the actual roadway surface, the paved surface itself. Bike lanes in many cases, they just don't work as effectively to protect the bicyclist. Multi-use paths are wonderful in that they get the biker out of the roadway, out of the line of traffic, but you need room. You need to squeeze it in, and you just don't have much space in this right of way. And you don't have much space in the footprint of the paved roadway itself, for that matter. So it's quite challenging. And we deal with that on all of our county roadways. How do you make it work? How do you get that safe bike ped facility into the right of way? It often means spending a significant amount of money to do something.
So Mr. Barron typed his questions into the chat. Question one is this the site that the county initially proposed for Queensbury and Taylor with the TAP 8 expansion?
The initial site that was proposed and the one that we actually engineered was Queensbury Road at Taylor Avenue. That's the site that made it into our TAP grant. It's built into, and it's actually hardwired into the memorandum of understanding, and because of that, and because the town prefers an alternative site. Again, we came to the conclusion that the best thing is to simply pull it out of the grant and use general obligation bonds to pay for it. That gives the county flexibility, immense flexibility in selecting the site, working with the town, finding something that really works best for everybody. And again, we're committed to it. We put it in our budget. We will pay for the capital acquisition. Again, we'll pay for the engineering. We'll take the time. We'll see it through the end. But again, before my team goes too much further, I just want to make sure we got a site that really meets your needs and that you really and truly want.
So Mr. Barron's second question was, will the reconstruction of the Riverdale Road Bridge impact the timing and placement of the new station at that location near the river?
I think that there's probably a little bit of a footprint impact, but this, just to be clear, is such a small impact. A bridge, my team builds bridges, so typically the footprint impacts here, I don't expect that they're doing much by way of increasing the cross-sectional area of the bridge. So therefore, they're not doing a whole lot chasing the road section beyond the bridge itself. So I doubt very much that we'll have significant impacts here, but we can work around any of those. I mean, this is just a concrete pad. That's really what we design. We engineer all this work for really just building what is a flat pad of concrete that the bike operators can access safely and maintain the bikes from. So yeah, we have a lot of flexibility there. And park and planning will work with us. It just takes time.
So Mr. Barron, Mr. Barron closed with a comment saying, overall, he's excited about the expansion of Capital Bike Share, and the location proposed by the town seems good, especially if there will be another station coming to the Purple Line.
Very good. And folks, that's really what we'd like to hear one way or the other. And please, if for some reason there is a concern about this particular site, I really think it's an excellent one. Please let us know. I would like to start engineering this as soon as we can. Again, I've got the engineer ready and waiting. We'll need to get out there and survey the sites, just do our title search work, and then start the plans. But I just, before I spent that time and effort, I wanted to make sure that that we were good. So I just want to know what can be said and when can it be said definitively that this is the site that the town would like, because at that point, I'd like to engage my consultant.
Okay, Councilmember Lingua has his hand up. I think he has one more
Oh,
question, and
I'm
I'll be
sorry.
happy to address your question after his comments.
Very good. Yes, council member.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. In terms of the site, bearing in mind that there'll be other sites coming down the road, and bearing in mind that there was a contingency for a spot at Queensberry and Taylor, I think the site makes sense, because when you're looking at trying to address a myriad of things, and one of those is the safety of the employees of Capital Bike Share to be able to either bring in or extract bikes from that station. They need to be able to do so safely. The challenge with the bridge is it's going to be there, but with what we're trying to do with our walk, bike, drive initiative, hopefully that can address some of that. Wouldn't want to use the word risk, but essentially be able to create traffic flow through there that is going to allow cyclists, pedestrians, and motorists to move through there with ease. So, I mean, for me, with those things in mind, I think it's a good location, because I think the other thing to consider also is the neighborhood that's just west of the river that can easily then get to that station as well.
Indeed.
So this is just our work session, Mr. Beckert, and so we can't take an official position tonight, but we can definitely take a position next week, and I think we might be ready at that time to do it. And speaking personally, then I think that this is actually a fantastic location for being both accessible to the residents east of the river and putting them right next to the Anacostia Trailway system, and making that accessible to them for both commuting and recreation. Are there any additional public comments or council comments before we let Mr. Beckert go? Okay, thank you, Mr. Beckert. I appreciate the presentation and providing the information that's helping us make this decision.
Oh, it's our pleasure. Mr. Mayor and council and Ryan and John, thank you all for your time. I really appreciate it. And again, anything I can do, any questions you may have, just reach out to me, and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, sir. We appreciate you working with us.
Thank you.
So that brings us to the mayor's report. And I'm going to have a short report this evening, just to sort of touch on the current situation with the pandemic. The numbers are coming down very nicely. About a week ago, they were 99 cases per day in the county. Today, I believe it was closer to 70. And the cases per 100,000 is below the magic number of 10. So things are going in the right direction, and the cases seem to be dropping fairly quickly. That being said, we're still not done. And I watch a lot of areas of the country. I'm sort of worried about what's going to happen when our weather does what it is doing this week and gets a little bit cooler and people move inside. So I still encourage everyone, if you're not vaccinated, get vaccinated as quickly as possible. If you are out in a public place, please maintain your masking. Please wash your hands. Please maintain distance as best you can. The other topic, which is closely related to that, I've been getting a lot of questions about the upcoming Halloween holiday and whether we are going to take a position on that. And Mr. Town Manager, you and I discussed that very briefly last week.
Yes,
Is
sir.
there a recommended position from staff, or you can bring that up in your report?
There is a recommended position. Ms. Barnes has worked on a statement. I'm not sure if she has it readily available, but essentially advising the community that the town does not designate, nor does the town cancel trick or treating. And that folks that participate in trick or treating, we urge them to do so safely, to wear a mask, not necessarily Halloween mask, but to wear a mask, and to social distance and wash their hands and practice all those good safety techniques. That would be the recommendation from the staff, to provide clarity that it's not a town-sponsored event, and so the town can't schedule it nor cancel it.
And we found that even last year, and we discouraged people strongly last year. There was less known about the disease at that time. I think that now that we know more, and especially with the case rate low and dropping, that that probably this can be operated safely, but you have to do it safely in order to be safe at it. And so we encourage anyone who makes that decision to do so safely. So other council members can, of course, weigh in with their advice for the residents, but thank you. That is all I have to say this evening, and I will talk more next week when we meet again. Mr. Town Manager, that brings us to you.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, members of council and the community and the staff team, just a few brief things this evening. My first thing was to remind folks that the pandemic's continuing, though the numbers look good, and to wear masks, social distance, and wash your hands frequently. The second thing is that there's a COVID-19 vaccination clinic by Luminous Health, and it's being held this Thursday, the 28th, from 3 to 7 at the Farmers Market. This is part of an ongoing initiative that the town has partnered with Luminous to promote vaccines in town. Flu vaccines and blood pressure tests will also be available. We do have an update on the timing of the trolley trail lighting project. We were initially looking at it sometime in early November. We're now being told early December, but it has moved through engineering, and Pepco's feeling confident about the early December timeline. And Town Hall and DPW operations will be closed on November 11th in observance of Veterans Day. And speaking of Veterans Day, there will be a wreath will be placed at the Veterans Monument at 11 a.m. on November 11th. The mayor's speech and comments, we're planning to share them via video through our various platforms, as we previously discussed. There will be photos of veterans from within our community and our staff team put into a montage, or kind of like a video. I thought that'd be a nice addition this year. And the cover of the November Town Crier includes photos of veterans who are that includes veterans who are members of our staff team. And then the last thing I have for this evening is that the budget season has arrived, and we are preparing our budget calendar, which we will be sharing soon. And Mr. Mayor, my goal is to ask you to put on the agenda for November, the work session in November, to start budget season a little bit early this year. For two reasons. We have a relatively new council. It'd be good to update everyone on what the process is, and kind of orient folks to the budget book as well. And there's a lot of stressors right now in the economy. While COVID the numbers are better locally in terms of community spread and that the impact of COVID on the economy and the various programs either being initiated or coming to an end, I think we're just starting to see those. And in terms of the longer term impact, we saw the immediate impact, but the longer term impact we're starting to see. And there's going to be concerns about heating cost throughout the winter season. And so the staff team is busy tweaking some of our programs, and we'll be bringing those back to you in November as well for your consideration. And that's all I have this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Town Manager. If there are any questions for the Town Manager? Not seeing any, then let's move on to Council, Committee, and Ward reports. We'll start with Councilmember Smith, Ward 1.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First, I want to apologize for arriving a little bit late this evening. I had a kitchen mishap at the last minute before we were scheduled to start. So please excuse my tardiness. I had a great opportunity earlier this month to meet with the Riverdale Park Business Association, local business owners who are doing their best to make our community continue making our community a great place to be, where I encourage them to take whatever measures they could to help us finally, to the extent we can, in this pandemic. I noted that we are kind of in the last couple innings of the pandemic right now, with the arrival of the vaccine, upcoming vaccine availability for children 5 to 11. Problem is, we've kind of been in those last couple of innings for several months now. The Business Association was very receptive and to my encouragement to take whatever measures they can regarding vaccine mandates and mask wearing and whatnot. So was happy to hear that. Happy to work with our local business owners and look forward to meeting with them again. For Ward 1 residents in Riverdale Park Station, I and other town dignitaries will be attending your HOA meeting this week. So we look forward to hearing from you and understanding what we can do to continue the growth of Riverdale Park Station and our communities at large. And I also just want to say regarding trick-or-treating, my family did not, with my son, which was kind of heartbreaking. He's 6 now, he was 5 last year, did not trick-or-treat. We made him a costume for him to run around in the house for a day. We will be trick-or-treating with him this year due to the progress we've made in the pandemic and better understanding of the disease, but also respect everyone who chooses to stay in again this year. And I hope everyone will do the same. I do want to note, for the benefit of the town, that the Smith household for trick-or-treating is a full-size candy household. So if you have any kids, feel free to drop by. Full-size candy, we get it from Costco. And that will conclude my report, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
And that's only available to kids, is that right?
I'll make an exception for the mayor, but otherwise, yes.
Okay, I may swing by. We'll have to see. Thank you, Councilmember Smith. Councilmember Foe, as I mentioned, was trapped on the freeway. I see one person who's called in. If that's Councilmember Foe, then please unmute and speak, but otherwise we'll move on to Councilmember Lingua, Ward 3.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. And once again, mayors have all the luck. They get all the awards and they get all the candy. Whereas the lowly council members are just left empty-handed, but that's okay. Quick note, a couple things related to the CCAR CDC. The county's Department of Public Works and Transportation has cleared the site at where the Edmonston Road Rain Garden will be, down along Kenilworth Avenue, just out at the front of Fletcher's Field. And they've cleared the site in preparation for planting. And October 28th, an outside contractor, Mack and Sons, will plant 20 trees and 44 shrubs on the site. And they're going to be working with Marita Roos and Aaron Sandcoop. Ms. Roos has marked the site locations, and the trees will be planted with rain bags so as to hold moisture, and the trees will also be staked. The CDC is going to be providing those rain bags. Ms. Roos does feel that some soil amendments may be needed, and that information has been forwarded to the contractor just to make sure that this would work within their estimate, or if there needs to be an adjustment. On a second note, as folks are well aware, prior to Halloween on Sunday, over at Town Center, there's going to be Booze and Bites. That's BOO, as in ghostly, as opposed to disapproving. Booze and Bites, put on by the businesses over there, and in sponsorship with Greater Riverdale Thrives as an event for a taste of Riverdale Park. My hope for folks who are attending is, one, have a great time. Two, please, if you're not eating or drinking, put a mask on. Do try to social distance as best as you can. And for the most part, once you've had your fill and you've had your share of food and heard your fair share of music, which will be over at the patio at Town Center Market. Don't be afraid to think that to think that you're going to be missing out if you decide to head home a little early. As the mayor said, numbers are trending in the right direction, but we still have a ways to go, and it's a matter of just being smart about how we're all going out and socializing and enjoying events in town. And with that, I will hold the remainder of my report till next week. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. That brings us to Councilmember Sadiq, Ward 4.
Nothing to report.
Thank you, Councilmember Sadiq. Councilmember Mejia, I contacted earlier today, and she and her entire family are unfortunately quite ill, and so she will not be joining us this evening. That brings us to Councilmember Mayers, Ward 6.
Good evening, Mayor Council. I don't have a ward report at this time.
Thank you very much. That brings us to public comments on the agenda. Are there any public comments this evening? I don't see any hands, so let's move on to the work session discussion items. Item number 1, a curb cut request for 4901 Sheridan Street.
Okay, my apologies. I think Ms. Barnes is going to be presenting this, but I just received a message that she had a power surge, so I'll do my best to fill in for her here. 4901 Sheridan Street is pursuing a curb cut request. They're constructing a new home there, and they are requesting a curb cut in order to install a new driveway. I believe the applicant, Carl Granzow, is here today to answer any questions.
So Councilmember Foe, who represents Ward 2, this isn't Ward 2, is not here this evening. Mr. Granzow, will we be seeing similar houses to those you constructed elsewhere in town?
It won't look the same as any of the other houses. It's a whole different style.
Okay.
Different look.
Okay, and I'm looking at the location of that. It looks like looks like maybe we're going to lose a street tree. Is that correct?
I haven't really given that any look on there, but it does seem to show that there. We can replant it. We certainly will.
Okay, are there any other, Councilmember Lingua has his hand up. Go ahead, Councilmember Lingua.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Question on this lot. I take it this is a lot that is being portioned off of the property that is, I believe that's 6311 49th Avenue.
Yes, it's always been a separate lot. It's not like being
I know.
portioned off. It's always been
I
a
know.
separate lot. Okay.
Right. I mean, because to go and get a lot divided does take to go through the county and a number of folks. So,
Correct.
but I figured it was essentially the property there, 6311, is sitting on a double lot. Is that correct?
The owner of that lot has 2 lots. Yes.
Okay, so you essentially have purchased that lot from the owner. Now
Correct.
you're looking to build upon it.
Correct.
Okay, and as of right now, you don't have a definite spot as to where this curb cut and apron are going in.
It shows on the engineered drawing that where we definitively want it.
Okay, which is a little tough to look at, and I've been lacking on my carrots lately. So,
I don't have control of the screen. I don't know who's moving it around, but you can see
no,
the
it's a little
highlight.
tough on my eyes here. Jeez,
I'm not doing that. I don't think that's me that's doing that.
Ryan, take it easy on me, okay? Jeez, my eyes only move so fast.
Ryan, are you able to make it a little bit larger?
For Pete's sake.
I am, but I'm afraid it's going to move again. So
All right.
please stay with me.
Okay, we'll have patience.
Okay.
Okay, I can see where 4903 is. So, and I'm looking at this corner lot. I'm still trying to decipher where exactly that curb cut's going.
So if he holds it still, there's an area that's highlighted in red. I guess everybody sees that same picture I'm looking at. Yes, right
Yeah.
there.
I thought that's the driveway for 49 for 4903. Am I mistaken?
Yes, that's the next one over. So the one that's highlighted in red is actually today has the white fence there along the front.
All right. Okay.
So we put it on that side of the lot as not to impact that large tree in the front yard to more toward the east, down the road a little bit.
Okay, well, I'm still. Okay, I'm seeing what's going on here. All right. Gotcha. Okay. I see it now.
I very much appreciate that you're protecting that oak tree on the other side of the lot. That's a beautiful tree.
Yes, and that is the entire intention of moving this around, is to save that tree. So now it didn't, until tonight, I didn't realize that there was one on the curb on the street. But if we're certainly going to look at that. If that's the case, we'll do something to mitigate that. Maybe move it or put another one out there.
Well, you got that tree boxed in there, so yeah.
Okay.
Well, you can always plant another. So
Sure.
Okay. That fence there was just throwing me. I was thinking that was the very back of the property at 6311, and it turns out it's just what you had put in as a demarcation for the property.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember Lingua. Are there additional questions for Mr. Gransdown?
So
Okay.
this is an 8,000 square foot lot? Roughly?
The, 8,978 square feet.
8,978 square feet. Okay. Great. And Mr. Mayor, are we gonna need to take any considerations for seeing how the property line is falling regarding the back of the house on 6311? 49th Ave?
I presume not. I believe that house is old enough that it predates the zoning ordinance. And so there was probably, if they tried to build the same house today, there'd probably be a lot of hoops to jump through, but it's legally where it is. And the lot can be developed.
Okay.
I will tell you that the owner there is going to redirect those stairs coming off the back and
Okay.
move them into the side yard.
Oh, okay.
And
Great.
we'll most likely be back to do a 6-foot fence along that side portion,
Okay.
separating those two lots.
Okay. Well,
Okay.
looks good. You build good houses. Look forward to seeing what you do.
So Mr. Granzow, usually at this meeting, we decide to put things on the consent agenda next week because the council member isn't here. Then I'm going to hold off on that, but I will take his advice when I speak to him later this week and let you know, or have staff let you know if it goes on the consent agenda.
Okay.
Assuming there's no council objection to me making that decision between now and next week. I'm not seeing anybody waving their hands too much. Okay. Thank you very much for coming, and thank you as always for choosing to develop in our community. We appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Take care, Carl.
Okay, the next item is a fiscal year 2022 revenue update.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Staff seek an opportunity to share with the Mayor and Council the year-to-date performance of major revenue categories as compared to prior years. There's no formal action requested, and our regular report will be provided our regular financial report will be provided at the legislative meeting, at the next legislative meeting. Ryan, can you do me a favor and actually go to the revenue comparison chart first?
Yes.
Just down.
Got it.
Thank you. As you see, the local taxes this year so far is $3,652,000 compared to $4,180,000 last year. So we're slightly a little below last year's number, and we anticipate receiving more revenues in November. So we will see where we land after that. The licenses and permits, we had 167,000 this year compared to 180 last year. And we have for fines and forfeitures, we have $10,400 compared to last year. We had $12,795. And then safe speed for students, we are seeing an increase there. We're at $350,437, and last year we were at 200,899. So we are seeing a slight increase there, about 150,000. If you could go back up, Ryan, to the detail report. On the detail report, you see where the real estate taxes over the 4-year period, we're just about the same, about a 200,000 difference from last year. The bigger increase or decrease would be in the personal property tax, and that's because of the purple line. We normally receive a large amount from the purple line. Because the state is now running it, we will no longer receive that from the contractor. So that's going to be lower this year. So everything else, when we look at the single family rentals, building permits and business licenses, they're about the same. The single family rentals have been a little slow, but I think the inspectors are out in the next few weeks. They're gonna do more inspections, so we'll see that increase also. Vehicle impoundments are slightly down, which is good. And safe, as I said earlier, safe speed for student has increased. And that's probably, part of that is because we added additional cameras too. And if you have any questions, do let me know.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Are there questions for Mr. Smith on the fiscal year 2022 revenue update? Councilmember Lingua.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Smith, on that one item that you pointed out with that rather considerable increase in the amount, 4401, safe speed for students, I was wondering if you could share with everyone the differentiation between that line and 4402, safe speed for students prior years.
Well, in the 4401 is all the current safe speed for student money that we've received. The prior year number is, there's sometimes tickets that are paid for the prior year. So we record that separate so that we would be able to, when we look at our analysis, we're not including that money in the current year.
Okay, so essentially when you're saying prior year money, you're not necessarily talking about first quarter of FY21. You're just talking about tickets that were incurred in the previous fiscal year that the town has received payment for.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
I just want to make sure that that was clear.
No, that's correct. We wanted to separate the numbers so we could look at true numbers when we do analysis.
Okay, thank you.
Any additional questions for Mr. Smith? Director Smith. Okay, thank you, Director Smith. I appreciate the report. I appreciate especially the explanations for the discrepancies that we see from year to year. It's always good to have that when we are trying to understand these numbers.
Thank you.
So let's move on to the next item, number 3, invitation to bid number 2021-004 roadway repair projects.
Good evening, everyone. This is Ivy Lewis, Director of Public Projects and Services, Department of Public Works. Staff is not requesting council action on this agenda item this evening. Instead, this is a briefing on the process and timeline we're following to select a contractor to complete 12 road improvement projects. At the legislative session on November 1st, staff will recommend a contractor for council consideration and request authorization for the town manager to sign an agreement with that contractor. By way of background, staff working with one of the town's on-call engineers conducted a community-wide road condition assessment earlier this year and identified 11 roadways for repair that received a priority rating of 1 and 2. These projects are generally distributed throughout the town, and the ratings are based on the degree of distress and deteriorating roadway conditions on these streets. The council authorized the town manager to sign a task order contract with the on-call engineer to design the improvements. And staff added a 12th project to the list of 11 that the council supported to design a bike path on Rivertech Court. The town received Rivertech Court as a transfer from Prince George's County earlier this year. And at the time of transfer, the council supported the addition of a bike lane. On October 22nd, staff released an invitation to bid and received 12 bids this past Friday. The bid amounts were widespread, ranging from $351,671 to $985,987. Of the 12 bids, staff found that 7 of them were non-responsive. That is, they did not provide all of the information requested in the invitation to bid. Additionally, staff determined that the 2 lowest bids under $400,000 were in fact too low, possibly necessitating change orders to address actual costs if a contract was signed with one of those contractors. Of the remaining bids, staff has taken a look at the lowest 2 responsive bids totaling $559,009 and $589,591. Staff will complete the review over the next several days, including completing reference checks on both contractors. I will mention that both bids exceed the capital improvement budget of $520,000 for road improvements in the current fiscal year, identifying a year-end balance of $216,351 above that amount to be carried over to fiscal year 23 to fund additional road improvement projects next year. Staff is exploring options for funding the projects at the bid amounts, including spending the entire or what we need from the entire $736,351 in the current CIP for road improvements this fiscal year, allocating expected surpluses from other fiscal year 22 capital projects, delaying several of the projects on the list, or amending the budget to add the additional funds needed above the $520,000 allocated for road improvements this fiscal year. Staff will present its recommendation for a contractor to build the projects and a funding approach at the November 1st meeting, as well as seek authorization for the town manager to sign a contract. And with that, I'll take questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Lewis. Are there questions for Director Lewis? Councilmember Smith, your hand is up. Please speak.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Director Lewis. Director Lewis, could you tell me if you know off the top of your head, did the town receive any bids from contractors located within the town?
You know, you asked me that the last time and I didn't remember to check. I don't believe any of them are located within the town.
Okay.
And I expect that to be the case. I'm not aware of any contractors within the town boundaries. And Ryan, if you're aware of any, let me know or speak to that this evening, but I don't think there are. They're in, many of them are in Prince George's County.
Sure.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Sure. That's kind of a hobby horse for mine. So just so you know,
I'll remember that.
on more contractor questions. Thank you for answering. Thank you.
All right, and I'll remember that, sir. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Are there additional questions for Director Lewis? Councilmember Lingua, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Director Lewis, this, in terms of these amounts that are over, how much do you see this affecting other projects in town? I mean, are we looking at delays in them or what?
You mean
what
of the 12
face?
projects on the list currently, if we don't have a means of funding the gap between what's in the current capital improvement budget and let's say the bid of the lowest bidder, how we might proceed?
Yeah.
Is that the question you're asking? So again,
yeah,
one of the options is to delay the project. Another is we anticipate some savings from other capital projects in this year's CIP. And so that money could be reallocated to this project, or the council could elect and staff could recommend and the council support amending the budget to add the some additional dollars onto that $520,000.
Okay.
Up to the contractor, the lowest bid, as well as the 10% contingency we'd like to include.
Okay. And so we'll be seeing numbers next week.
Yes.
As to what amounts it would require to do each of those scenarios you just outlined?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Lingua. Are there additional council questions? Are there any public questions or comments on this item? Okay, thank you, Director Lewis. I appreciate this. I look forward to seeing a meaty proposal next week of what we're going to do with lots of details. So appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I must take leave, and my apologies for that. I actually have more to do this evening. All right. Good night, everyone. Thank you.
Good night.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
So the next item on the agenda is Ordinance 2021-OR-09 regarding the town personnel manual, mandatory vaccinations.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members again, and members of the community and the staff team. Hopefully we have more staff watching as well. Have this on again this evening. If you have any questions, we will be recommending that the mayor and council adopt these changes at the next legislative meeting. We continue to have outreach to the staff team at our all staff meetings every Monday. We're talking about it. Today, I again ask staff, if you have questions or concerns, please talk to your manager, call me. Everyone has my cell phone number. We've had very, very little feedback. We've had, I believe, 2 staff members reach out and talk through concerns they had with their managers. From the staff team perspective, we still believe this is the right course of action to take for the town to take as an employer, and to fulfill the duty of providing as safe of a workplace as possible. And with that, we're here to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Town Manager. Are there council questions for the town manager on this item? Councilmember Lingua.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. This is going to be just one of those obvious questions to ask, just to make sure that we're all on the same page here and that all the bases are covered. This has been reviewed by the town attorney, and he feels it's sufficient to address what we're trying to do here.
Yes, actually, sir, it was originally authored by the town attorney. Staff then reviewed it, asked questions, sought clarification. We recommended some edits, and what you have in front of you is a final product that Mr. Sussman put together.
Okay, so he was all right with the amendments offered or the edits?
Yes, sir. And I don't recall every one that we had, but we talked through all the language. That was Mr. Smith and myself taking the lead on the staff side, along with Mr. Sussman. And then I was sharing drafts with the staff leadership team and getting feedback from the staff leadership team, and also
Okay.
taking those to Mr. Sussman.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Lingua. Are there additional council questions or comments for the town manager? Are there any public questions or comments for the town manager on this item for the town council? Okay, I actually had an interview with the University of Maryland journalism student on this ordinance last night. So I'm glad that everyone is up to speed on it and where we are. Thank you all. Let's move on to the next item on our agenda, which is proposed creation of a Riverdale Park Board of Elections.
Ms. Barnes, can you begin leading us through this, and let me know if you need anything along the way.
Certainly, thank you very much. Good evening, Mayor Thompson and members of the council. No action is requested tonight at the work session. Staff seek some feedback from the mayor and council regarding the creation of a board of elections, a town board of elections. As we discussed almost a year ago now, in November 2020, there are significant updates that are needed to the election procedures, which were substantially revised last in 1995. The first step in this process, staff are recommending the establishment of a board of elections. The Board of Elections, it's envisioned that the Board of Elections would be appointed for 2-year terms starting on even years. It would consist of approximately 3 to 5 members and include the chief and deputy chief election judges. The Board of Elections would plan and conduct regular and special elections in coordination with the town clerk. The board would also periodically review the town election procedures and best practices. The board would solicit community input and make recommendations regarding changes to the town election process, serve as election judges on election day, recommend additional qualified individuals to the mayor and council for appointment as election judges, and very importantly, conduct voter education programs and prepare and distribute voter outreach materials. So timing is incredibly important. As you heard earlier, we are in the midst, at least the staff team is really starting the budget discussions. In fiscal year 2023, we will be planning for an election at the end of that fiscal year. There has been a lot of discussion about changes potentially to the election process to include mail-in voting. So those things will need to be taken into consideration when preparing the budget. Furthermore, any changes to the charter or the code take time. So the creation of a board of elections would be step 1. If the mayor and council are supportive of the concept, legislation will be drafted for adoption. Of course, that will take a period of time. Then appointments will need to be made. And then hopefully we'll get to the step where we work to solicit community input on any changes to the election process. This is a lengthy process, and I think we've talked about that way back when, but it's important that we start now and we start moving forward in that direction so that we're ready for the election in 2023. Intentionally, the recommendation is to continue to include the chief and deputy chief election judges as members of the Board of Elections, just in case at any point in the process we end up having to have a special election that should fall right within the current procedures that we have in place. So that was an intentional inclusion there. And then last but not least, I did some outreach to the municipalities in our neighborhood surrounding us. The city of Hyattsville has a board of election supervisors that currently has 5 members. They're an incredibly active bunch. We have the town of University Park has a supervisor of elections, 2 members, which is similar to what we have now with the chief and deputy chief election judge. The city of College Park has a board of election supervisors with 5 members, 1 chief and then 4 actual supervisors. And the city of College Park is going through a very similar exercise that we're going through with regard to making changes to their election process. The city of Tacoma Park also has a board of elections, which holds up to typically 7 members. Right now they have 5. The town of Berwyn Heights has a board of supervisors of elections, and they have 5 members. Town of Edmonston has supervisors of elections, 1 per ward. City of New Carrollton has 3 members. The town of Bladensburg has 3 members as well. So this is a common practice amongst municipalities in our area. And there's lots of opportunities to review what has already worked for them. And that's actually where I came up with the list of recommended items that the Board of Elections would work on. I have to say, most importantly, would be something that we've talked quite a bit about with the chief and deputy chief election judge is the need to conduct voter education and really get out there and encourage voters to participate, especially our 16-year-olds. We have our supplemental voter registry, and it's important that we that everyone knows that that exists, and we encourage folks to be part of that. It's been growing slowly, but surely, and it'll get there. But we need to spend some time on the voter education component. And the other last minor note I just wanted to make, we will be going through a redistricting process very soon. And it would be nice to have feedback from the Board of Elections with regard to what potential impact redistricting may have on the election process. So that's just something I wanted to add. I'm open to any questions or any comments.
Thank you, Director Barnes. Councilmember Smith had his hand up. Please speak.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Director Barnes. Director Barnes, thank you for that presentation. I'll be highly supportive of this effort. And I would just add that I hope and discussions with you, I feel like this is would be a friendly request, but that the part of the charge of this body would be to ensure as many eligible Riverdale Park residents as possible are registered to vote and able to vote. And that would include doing proactive voter registration at places like farmers market and other community events. And I look forward to see what you'll do with this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Smith. Are there additional council member questions or comments?
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Please, Councilmember Langlet, go ahead.
Ms. Barnes, you'd mentioned several times that this was going to take a considerable amount of time to get together and put together. Do you have a rough ballpark estimate as to what that timeline would be?
In my mind, it's going to be at least probably a year to get through this, if we're honest.
Okay.
We're going to need to do a significant community outreach. We had the opportunity in 2021 to interact with a lot of really great folks in our community who have lots of great ideas on how we can improve the process. So we want to bring as many people in as possible to have those conversations, outreach to our communities that aren't often represented as far as voters coming out to vote. That's all going to be critical. So the initial step will be creating, if the council is open to it, a board of elections, and then starting that public process of getting some community input, and then in turn making those recommendations to the mayor and council. So I'm not exactly certain how involved the revisions to the charter and code will be. The revisions to the election manual will be substantial for certain. The nice thing is I've had the opportunity to see all sorts of old election records as part of our renovation process. So now I understand why we had some of those things in place. But elections changed drastically during the last national election. And we need to be prepared for any changes to come. So any legislation will be written with some flexibility and some ability to kind of change with the times. That's what I would envision, certainly.
Okay, so I'm kind of hearing a cart and a horse in that explanation. And I'm trying to, and with what you're trying to do, I'm trying to figure out which is which. And I guess my understanding on this is that what's gonna carry through this to a full fruition is the initial step of council passing legislation, creating an elections board with a general structure in place, yet without bylaws or anything of the sorts on the conduct of that board. Is that correct?
That would be a part of the Board of Elections. They would create the bylaws similar to what the Ethics Commission did or the Board of Code Appeals. It would be established in the same kind of way. So there would have to be some sort of bylaws created,
Right.
Not necessarily, or at least rules of procedure, for example.
Right.
And I know that we have worked, the chief and deputy chief election judges have been working to create rules of procedure. So I think it'll be a very easy transition. And in the municipal world, we like to use what others, we like to recycle, if you will, and there's lots of great examples out there. I'm very impressed by the city of Hyattsville. If Councilman Foe were here tonight, he would again just share the excitement and the increase in voter turnout that they had in their last election, and we would love to see something like that here. So they actually have a great framework in place. Same with the city of Tacoma Park. There's lots of great examples for us to follow. I don't think it'll be as difficult to establish the Board of Elections. I do think it's going to be a little bit tricky in how we legislate the practices, the best practices moving forward. But that's a community discussion that has to happen first. It'll be important to hear what changes or what the community is most interested in with regard to the process.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Are there additional council questions for Director Barnes? Councilmember Smith, I think your hand has been up from your previous comments. Just if you want to speak more, then feel free. There we go, went down. Are there public comments or questions for Director Barnes? See, we have Kate Kelly is here. I believe that Sarah Zolad was here earlier. She may have dropped off. Okay, well, I will just dive in here. Coincidentally, just before this meeting for the from 6 to 7, I was invited at a forum for the town of Chevy Chase, where they are considering extending the vote to 16 and 17-year-olds, as we did a few years ago. And they were soliciting advice from myself and the mayors of Mount Rainier and Tacoma Park on our experience. And one of the things that impressed me the most about Tacoma Park, their population, their registered voting, anyways, about 4 times our size. And they actually had a board of youth voters that was 6 16 or 17-year-olds who were part of community outreach and encouraging more 16 and 17-year-olds to vote. And that was just amazing to me that even at a little bit, 4 times our size, that they were able to have such an entity. So very interested to see what we have going forward. But I'm hearing at least reasonable enthusiasm for this. Councilmember Smith, do you have another comment?
Yeah, Doug, I had not thought of that, what you just mentioned. But as you spoke it, it seems to me that it would make sense that such a board would, in our town, would have at least one youth member on the board. I don't know if we're large enough to merit an entire youth board, but I think I hope most of us would agree that having the stakeholders at all age groups involved would be best for our town.
Okay, thank you, Director Barnes. Let's continue discussing and see where we go. Thank you. That brings us to item 6, the Mixed Use Town Center Local Design Review Committee and membership on the same.
Good evening again, Mayor Thompson and members of the council. As you know, it wasn't very long ago that we adopted a resolution to establish the members of MUTC, and that membership was approved by the planning board. However, we had a recent vacancy on the council, and that created a vacancy on MUTC. And the vehicle by which we reappoint or make a new appointment would be through by resolution. So we revised the resolution that we did, I believe it was in January, made some changes and added the new councilman from Ward 1 to the resolution. So that's basically where we are. We would need to take action in the format of a resolution that would go through our representative, our MUTC representative to the planning board for their approval. So again, making a recommendation to the planning board for their actual approval.
Thank you, Director Barnes. And just to be clear, the planning board will probably take several months to review the application before getting back to us, but they do. They've been very good about confirming our recommendations over the years. Are there questions about this item from members of council? Councilmember Smith, I think your hand is still up from your second comment on, but you could. Do you have a comment?
It was, but I realized that when I went to raise it for this agenda item. Just to be quick, say I'm happy to serve on this body. Yeah, I just feel an obligation to speak to it since it's my name on here, but that's all I have.
And since you live in a townhome that was actually put through the process, that was reviewed by the local design review committee, so
Absolutely.
you are benefiting from past MUTC committees. Are there additional council comments on this item? Are there any public comments on this item? Saw that the committee member Anthony is here with us this evening. Thought she might be checking in to see what we're up to. Okay.
Just listening in for the evening. Thank you.
Okay, great. Okay. I think that needs to be on the regular agenda next week. That brings us to item 7, the redistricting process for Prince George's County. Mr. Town Manager, are you presenting or should I be presenting this evening?
I can talk about what has been done and whether or not you want to take any additional action.
Okay.
So as discussed last week or at the last meeting, the mayor and council approved signing on to a letter that College Park had authored, and I believe, Mr. Mayor, you've done that. The council had a variety of things to say in their comments on this last week, expressing general displeasure with the process. We're here tonight to see if the council wants to continue this discussion and wants to take any further action in expressing concerns.
I'd like to add to that last Thursday, the Prince George's County Municipal Association, PGCMA, met and had a vigorous discussion on this topic and voted 19-0 to also send a letter requesting information about expressing displeasure with the process and requesting information on the motivations behind the map and requesting attendance by the chair of the council. And a letter from the PGCMA to the chair is still being drafted, as was decided by PGCMA. I will additionally say that I saw a letter that was sent from Councilmember Hawkins's office to an individual in town explaining the motivations that they had in the process. And I saw that about 10 minutes before my 6 p.m. meeting started. And so I haven't had a chance to do anything except give it a quick skim. And I will try to find a pristine version of that letter and share it with the council. I'll just mention the process going forward is that a map has been introduced. It was different than the map that we saw at the last meeting, but it does have some very unusual shapes on it. It does not address many of the issues that we brought up at the last meeting. And That map will be up for a vote on November 16th. There will be a public hearing on that map, and the council will have an opportunity to either take action on it or to not take action on it. If they did not take action on it, then the map that was generated by the Prince George's County Redistricting Commission would become effective, and there will be an opportunity for individuals and organizations to speak at that public hearing. So with all that being said, it's my inclination to leave this on the agenda for next week and to continue our discussion. We can decide to do all sorts of things next week, but I think we do need to continue the discussion. And I think we also need to carefully review the materials that Councilmember Hawkins provided. If we could have town staff reach out directly to Councilmember Hawkins's office to try to get a copy of that letter. It looked like it was a generic letter and not addressing the exact statements of the local resident. Councilmember Lingua.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. My understanding of the procedures going forward, and please correct me if I'm wrong, is that the one and only public hearing will be coming right before the decision to be made on the map.
That's correct.
So really no time to really take in, contemplate, and think over what's being said and consider its application. We're one to amend this map. It almost seems that with this public hearing, it's kind of a all or nothing approach at that point. It's either this map or we go with what's recommended by the Redistricting Commission. Is that correct?
I believe that's more or less correct. I have not actually heard anyone specifically answer the question of can the currently proposed non-redistricting commission map, the Hawkins-Davis map, yes, as amended, whether that can be yet again amended at the meeting. You know, you can do things at a meeting such as to amend by replacement, and so can that be done? I don't know. That's unclear to me. Okay. And so I think there may be many more options. I know that the apparent timescale for determining whether the maps meet the legal requirements at least is very short. So you can drag a district line and almost instantaneously see what the populations are updated to. And so I think that there are many options out there, but I'm not sure of that process at this time. And okay. Part of what I think we need to do over the next week is become a little bit better educated on those and determine what the options are, and make our recommendations next week.
Okay. Well, while we are researching that, I would like to put this idea out there for consideration, and whatever we communicate to the county council is the suggestion that prior to the public hearing that they're scheduling for the 16th, that they hold an additional public hearing on or about November 9th. So as that then there are at least 2 public hearings to be able to, for people, be that municipal officials or citizens of the county, be they in an incorporated or in an unincorporated area, have the opportunity to come out and express an opinion.
That seems reasonable to me. I am always a big fan of public participation, as you know, in many of our controversial legislation. We've had lots of public discussion, and I think that's a good idea to do that.
Okay, and as that you are the town's representative to the Prince George's County Municipal Association,
in your estimation of what you heard on Thursday and the sentiments expressed there, do you think that this would be something that the members of the Prince George's County Municipal Association would like to see as well?
I think they would be very supportive of that. And there's definitely a request in that letter as adopted by the PGCMA to have additional communication with the members of PGCMA. And I suspect that there's enough flexibility in the motion that that could be extended to having requesting an additional public hearing.
Okay.
And I will happily negotiate that that idea with the other members.
Okay, thank you.
Are there additional council questions or comments on this item? Rain is really pelting down here. Are there any public comments or questions on this item? Okay, I think we do want to put it on the regular agenda for next week for further discussion. That brings us to item number 8, which are the minutes. Everyone should please review the minutes and make sure that they reflect what you think you said. And I'm pretty sure, based on my reviews, that they do, but it's always a good idea. Never know if you might have flipped a couple of words here or there or things like that. So that brings us to new business. Are there any items of new business? Are there any items of unfinished business? Okay, we are not in a formal meeting, so we don't need a motion to adjourn. We just are adjourned. It is 8:44 p.m. Thank you all for attending and participating, and we'll see you next week. Have a good week.
Thank you very much. Have a good week, everybody.
Good night.
Thank you all.